Are you ready? Ready to bring a revolution to your relationships? Ready for the experiences on your dating adventure to evolve? Ready for more passion, intimacy, connection, and love in your relationship? Ready to heal past relationship wounds? You're in the right place. I'm Alan, the love engineer, and this is the Relationship Revolutions podcast. In this series, you'll get guidance and tips from me, interviews from other relationship experts, insights from couples who already have a great relationship, and other mind-opening conversations. Hey, and welcome to Relationship Revolutions. This week, my guest is Brooke Bounds. Brooke is an accredited trauma coach, therapist, and global #1 best-selling author. She works with businesswomen who feel stuck to break through their barriers and want to move on to the next level in their business. And she does this by helping them heal their inner child wounds so that they can find their own power and confidence to go forward. Brooke is passionate about this, and she once felt powerless and scared to show up in the world as herself. Then she started working on her mind and her body, and she discovered who she really was and the love of the feeling of inner contentment and confidence. She went from being scared to being a public speaker, live on stage, even though she's an introvert. Yet she discovered how to rewire and regulate her own nervous system, heal her inner child wounds so that she could achieve her dreams. And now she helps other people do the same thing. She knows she can put her hand on her heart and say, it can be done. As she's walked in similar shoes to yours, she's felt your fears, and she has been frustrated by those blocks. A little bit about Brooke's background. She had an abusive relationship growing up with a narcissistic mother, and then moved on to 2 abusive relationships. She's been homeless and brought up 4 children single-handed. She has a unique way of understanding people, where they are at, and helping them find their true power. She now lives in a house in the countryside with her husband and runs a successful business whilst having fun adventures in their camper van. And now to my conversation with Brooke. G'day, Brooke, and welcome to Relationship Revolutions. Initially, I'd like to ask you 2 questions. How are you and where are you?
Great questions. I'm great, thank you very much. And I'm in Shropshire, which is, for those who don't know, it's next door to Wales, near enough. So I live about 20 minutes away from Wales. It's really nice in the Shropshire Hills. Or I'm in my front room, depends on which way you want to see it.
Indeed, indeed. So, and I know we've worked together in the past with you coaching me. So one of the things that I like to ask when I have coaches on, when you have the careers office interviews and career paths put forward to you in school, being a life coach or any kind of coach is never one of them. So how did you get to do what you do now?
Life experience, really. By accident, actually, I became a coach. I had a friend who wanted to go to like a free coaching weekend. She didn't want to go on her own, and she said, "Do you fancy coming with me?" I thought, "Oh, I like to learn. Why not?" And when I went to the coaching weekend, I thought, "Oh, I already do that with my friends. I already do that." And a few of my friends already said, "You really should do this and get paid for it." So that kind of like started my journey. I then signed up for the actual coaching certification, and the rest they say is history. So that's where it kind of like all started off. And I started off being a mindset coach, and then I discovered that just sorting out your mind wasn't enough. And I realized I'd got a lot of trauma stored in my body. So I then got into the trauma side of it and the inner child wounds. And that was a game changer for me, because I've got a really strong mindset. I've got my knowledge, I've got my skills, but why am I feeling like I'm going to be sick every time I want to go and do something? Why is my palms really sweaty? Is my heart pounding? And it's like, okay, well, I can feel the fear and do it anyway. But I thought, actually, no, I don't want to do that. So once I realized it was the trauma that's trapped in my body and causing the fear and then the issues, I thought, okay, right, feel that fear, process that fear, and then go on and enjoy doing whatever it is that I wanted to do. So that really kind of set me down the track of helping people to like heal their inner child wounds, so they don't have to feel hot and sweaty and their heart pounding out their chest and feeling sick just because they want to go and do a quick Facebook Live or whatever it is that they want to do, that their body's going, no, that doesn't feel safe to do type thing. So yeah, my own experience of having a traumatic childhood and being in narcissistic relationships kind of led me down this path really to being the inner child coach that I am today, in a nutshell.
Excellent. Yeah, when you say mindset is often not enough, that's something I've found for myself as well, because so often when you're in a challenging event and that fear comes up, you notice the sensations in your body arise first, and then the mind says, oh, this means I'm not enough, or because of something else that happened in the past, or whatever it may be. Yeah, you still hear all these mindset coaches saying, change your thoughts, you change your life, which there are elements of truth in that. But the mind alone doesn't heal the body, and the body keeps a score at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I always liken it to the inner child, the 4 core wounds. The inner child is not feeling good enough, worthy, lovable, or important. And I always like to use the analogy that our inner child is a bit like the puppet master and we are the puppet. When the inner child doesn't feel safe or secure, it will pull on the strings and kind of like pull us back, and we're like, oh, okay, we're not doing that then. And it's because that inner child doesn't feel safe and secure, and they will control what we actually decide to do, unless we do that thing where we could just keep pushing and like we're sweating the way through it, our heart's pounding and feeling sick. But that to me is not a nice way to live. So and I'm on a mission to help as many people as I can to realize that there is a different way of life to live, that they can do the things that they want to do without feeling sick, without their heart pounding, without their palms being all sweaty, without them like being soaking wet with sweat, because they're pushing themselves through like they're doing a major workout when they're actually not physically doing a workout.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the fear of going live on social media, and that's something I hear quite a few people say when I'm out networking. And I said, well, you don't have to get it right the first time. They said, oh, I do. I said, and then I tell them about the story of your first Facebook Live. They said, oh, I can get it wrong.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I still tell my clients that story to this day. So, and it is, it's like and it's again, it's to do with the mindset as well. Of course it is. And it's like thinking about, okay, if you think I'm either going to succeed or fail, you've got a 50-50 chance, and your body's going, oh, that doesn't feel too good. But if you think, okay, I'm either going to succeed or I'm going to learn from this, that's a win-win situation. So your body's more likely to go, oh, that feels better. Yeah, let's go and do that. And I absolutely love making mistakes now. Like a few months ago, I did a TikTok, and I realized after I put after 6,000 people had viewed it, that the autocorrector changed the your from YOUR to YOU''RE, so the grammar wasn't correct. But not one single person said, oh, that heading's not spelled correctly. But lots of people messaged me saying, thank you very much for that TikTok, that was exactly what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
So and then I took a screenshot of it, and then did a Facebook post about it, and everybody's like, oh yeah, well, we all make mistakes, nobody's perfect, it's all okay, and thank you for sharing that. It makes me feel better when I've made a mistake or whatever it is. So I'm all about letting people know it's okay, because nobody is perfect. We're all kind of like going for that illusion of, it must all like be absolutely perfect, where, as you quite rightly sort of like mentioned, my first Facebook Live was far from perfect, but I ended up getting a couple of clients from it. So people see the human side of us as well, and people like to be able to see that side because they can relate to us more as well.
So for those people who are listening and aren't familiar with that story of your Facebook Live, would you like to share with them what happened?
Yeah, sure. Well, I was back then, I was very, very nervous about doing a Facebook Live. And I've been doing them in my group, okay, but my coach said to me, go do one on your personal profile. And my body immediately went, oh my goodness. And so I procrastinated for quite a long time. And working how I work now, procrastinating is like a protector part that comes in to protect our inner child. And I was doing everything I could to like not do this Facebook Live, even to the point of where I'm sure everybody's got it. That drawer in the kitchen that's a bit messy with the odd pen top, the paper clip, and the elastic band. I even tidied that all out, so that was really tidy. But then the day to do the Facebook Live, I thought, okay, I've got myself all revved up, you know, even though my heart was pounding and my palms are sweaty. But I'm not great at tech, and most people who know me know that. And because I was so nervous and I couldn't think because my body was like in this fight or flight kind of mood and mind, and it was like, okay, I can't think how to switch the camera around, and all everybody could see was my carpet. So I just kind of like made a joke and said, well, thankfully I've hoovered today, but I'm all geared up to say what I need to say, so I'm just going to say it anyway. And I had a couple of people message me saying, I can so relate to that. It's something I would probably do. And it's so refreshing to see somebody that hasn't got the perfect backdrop, the perfect lighting, perfectly scripted Facebook Live. You know, you're so relatable, you know, and I've been following you for a while. So can I have a chat with you about having some coaching sessions? And like I said, after that, I signed up 2 clients just because I messed up my Facebook Live. So I tell all my clients that who are a bit nervous doing a Facebook Live, and I say to them, do you know how to flip the camera around? They're like, yeah, of course I do. I'm like, well, then you're going to be much better at it than me on your first go. So, you know, but now because I've done it so many times and I'm not worried about being perfect, I will just think of something to talk about and just go on Facebook. When I first started, it was like I had an A4 sheet that I was reading off the whole script sort of thing and trying to be all sorted and perfect. But at the end of the day, people just want to see you as you, and they can relate to that. So, you know, so yeah, make the mistakes because you'll end up getting clients from it, is my message anyway. And I obviously
Yes,
went on to
as you say,
build a successful business, so it hasn't affected me in a negative way.
None of us are perfect. None of us are perfect, and I can certainly relate to the not wanting to go live thing. And in some ways, I'm not a fan of it today. And what I find is it's not so much the talking to the camera, because I'm doing that now. It's the looking at myself on that little screen thinking, who wants to look at that? Who wants to listen to that? And then you get the feedback and you think, okay, well, maybe I do have some useful things. It's that little inner voice that keeps saying, you're not enough, you're not enough, and all that kind of thing, which I know we've worked on in the past. And I always remember that little reframing thing I did of that inner voice that was saying you're not enough, when I was picturing it as the Incredible Hulk in front of me. So I changed it to something else that was green and a lot smaller. I changed it to Kermit the Frog. And
Brilliant.
then it lost a lot of the power behind it.
Absolutely, yeah. And that isn't, and it's, but thinking about just a Facebook Live, it's not a natural thing to do to talk to yourself in a little screen either. So, you know, normally people when they're talking to somebody are talking to a different face. So it's understanding that it's not a natural thing to do, and so it's okay to feel a bit strange doing it, you know. And I'm an introvert, so, you know, that's not a natural thing for me to do, to be in front of a camera and chat to people and things like that. And I can remember when I did that first Facebook Live, my daughter came on and I kind of went, oh, my daughter's just appeared on. And after she went, why did you go a bit strange when I come on? Because I was only coming on to support you. But it really threw me because I was like, my nervous system was already in that fight flight situation. And it was like, oh my goodness, now my daughter's here, you know. But, you know, it doesn't change the fact that I had the skills and the knowledge. It was just how I felt about it. So, yeah, it's understanding how your body works. And the minute your body reacts in that way, it just sends a signal to your subconscious mind to say, where's the danger? Where's the danger? And it's constantly scanning for the danger. So it will stop you from doing the things you want to do. But it's understanding that's how your body's working, and learning how to calm your nervous system down so you can go and do all sorts of things. Now, you know, I'll happily go talk on stage in front of hundreds of people, and it doesn't bother me, because I know how to calm my nervous system down, and how to help my inner child feel safe and secure and feel okay about standing on the stage and chatting in front of however many people.
Definitely. So this inner child,
Yeah.
for people who are not familiar with it, or have seen the term on Facebook and whatever else, what is it? Where does it come from?
Your inner child is basically you, but as a child. And it's often, when you've got inner child wounds, it's those things that you didn't get as a child from your parents, your teacher. You didn't get seen and heard and validated for whatever reason. And when a situation occurs that's similar, then as an adult, your inner child will go, okay, we can't do that because last time that happened, that wasn't safe or whatever. Like with me, for example, I use me as the example. I was scared to do a Facebook Live because as a child, when I spoke out, I got into trouble. So my inner child was basically saying, no, you can't speak out and talk to people because you're going to get into trouble. Now, logically, in my mind as an adult, I knew I wasn't going to get into trouble. But until you deal with those inner child wounds, your body goes back to being that little 5 or 6 year old. It hasn't date stamped it in the past. So your body's reacting like a little, oh my goodness, somebody's going to shout at us. So then we have what I call that, like I said, these protector parts, which is called, like, you know, procrastination, self-sabotage, emotional eating, perfectionism. These are all protector parts that come in to protect our inner child, so those wounds don't get hurt anymore. So it's basically how you felt as a young child. It's those feelings that you're feeling, that your body's, because as you said, the body always keeps a score. Our body's always remembering things, and it's always giving us feedback and giving us data about what we need to heal and where we need to heal it. So when people say to me, oh, I feel really frustrated and I'm getting annoyed that I'm frustrated, I'm like, good, that's your body giving us information that's where we need to work on. So it's getting curious about why that frustration part's coming up, why that annoyance part's coming up, why that anger part's coming up, or whatever part it is. Why is that coming up? Why does it feel the need to protect your inner child? What does your inner child need from you right now? And that's what I help my clients do, to reparent themselves, to give them the things that they didn't necessarily get from either their parents, their teacher, or somebody, you know, when they were younger, that they didn't feel heard and seen and validated. So I help them to, like, kind of validate themselves and be seen and heard by themselves. So we learn to love ourselves and feel good enough and worthy ourselves. Then anybody else on the outside that does that, that's just a bonus on top.
Yeah, so that inner child then stops growing at that point where it starts feeling that they're not enough, they're not loved, they don't matter, or whatever that language may be. So for some people, their inner child may be that 5, 6 year old, and for others, it could be that stroppy teenager.
Yeah, and it could be at whatever point that something happened, you know, in their life. It could be like when they're, like you said, they're 5 or 6. Like I had a client, and I wrote it about in my book, who at the age of 7 did a maths sum on the board, and the maths teacher said, "You're useless at maths," and threw the maths rubber at her, at the board rubber at her. But because she was that age, she didn't think, oh, maybe the maths teacher's in a bad mood, maybe he tripped over the cat, or maybe he's got a flat tire, or maybe he's stressed about something. As children, we take things as they're said, you know, especially if they're from an adult, like, okay, I must be bad at maths. Yeah. And that affected her up until she was like in her 50s, when she wanted to go for a promotion, but she needed a maths exam. So she called me in to help her to get over the fear of doing maths. So, you know, it could be just one sentence that's happened in our lives, you know, because often I talk about trauma and people go, well, I had a lovely childhood, I haven't got any trauma. But, you know, people see trauma as like somebody going off to war and fighting, or being in a major car crash or something. Yeah. But it can be that one little sentence that sticks. You know, people have had weight issues because, you know, some loving uncle or aunt or somebody's joked about and said, "Hiya, chubs, how you doing?" And that's kind of like stuck with them, thinking, oh, I must be chubby, therefore I need to, you know, lose that weight. And it can lead to, you know, and not the adult's not necessarily done it intentionally, but it depends, because children can take things and have 2 and 2 and add them up to 5. It's how we perceive them as children, not necessarily what's been said as the adult as well. So it's understanding that it's how we feel about things. It's not a case of blaming the adult for like, oh my goodness, my uncle wrecked my life because he called me chubs or whatever. It's actually how we feel about it and what can we do about it to look at that situation differently so we feel better about ourselves.
Yeah. I had a kinesiology session with our mutual friend Lynn a while back, and I was looking at some of the inner child stuff, the I don't matter thing. And what I found really interesting with that is some of it was absolutely nothing to do with me. Some of it actually went back generations to a girl that was pregnant at 14 and had the baby taken off her back in the 1800s.
Trauma can go back like seven generations. So yeah, sometimes what we're feeling isn't actually our trauma. It can be from generations beforehand, and things can get passed down. If I had £1 for every client that came to me and said, well, that's not the way it's done in our family, or our family don't do it that way, I'd be a lot richer than I am now, because we tend to do things that our parents did, that they do things that their parents did, but we don't ever question, actually, does this actually sit with me? Does this work for me in my life right now? We just keep doing it because it's always been done that way.
Yeah.
So what I do is get my clients to get curious and like, okay, well, what way would suit you? What would help you? And how can we do it differently? Even if it were, especially like often like, grandparents who've grown up in the war have got that real scarcity thing about them, whereas we don't have to have that scarcity thing necessarily for ourselves, and that doesn't sit and work with us, but it worked well for our grandparents. They had a really good reason for doing it, but it doesn't mean to say that we have the same reasons or the same motives to do them as well.
Yeah, it's not that many generations ago where people used to send kids up chimneys and down coal mines and whatever else. And I would think that's got to have affected the kids at the time, which then become parents and gets passed down as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And parenting, the way things were parented, when I was a young child, it was a norm to get a clip around the ear roll, not only from your parents, but from any other adult. If you were misbehaving slightly, it was the done thing. But nowadays we wouldn't do that, wouldn't dream of doing that. So it's just thinking, is this actually the way I want to have my life? Does it sit right with me? Does it feel right with me? I've had people that have had like generations of families be doctors or lawyers. It's like, well, I actually want to be an artist. Well, why not? Well, I can't because, we're all lawyers in our family. Yeah, all the women are lawyers, or all the men are doctors, or whatever it was. Well, actually, but do you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever it is, or whatever occupation the family has? Like, no, I don't, not really. So, well, then what do you want to do? Yeah, well, I can't do what I want to do because my family will get upset. So you're going to live your life miserable because your family might not like it, for a few months, and will understand eventually. But so it's understanding that we don't have to live the life that we feel we should do. We feel obligated to live because everybody else has done it in our previous generations.
Yeah, I think especially through those teen years and university years, if we want to do something different to what our parents believe that we should, it can be very hard to stand up to them and say, no, I'm going to do my thing. Because even at that age, there's still a strong sense of there are security, there are protection, there's food, shelter, and everything else.
Yeah, it is. But I tend to talk a lot to women that are in their sort of like late 30s onwards, where actually they've done that sort of thing. I think actually, well, I want to do something different now. They may have had their children like kind of grown up and left home, and they've got that emptiness sort of feeling, and they've got that time to think about themselves. It's like, actually, what do I want to do? Do I want to carry on this career, or actually, no, I've always dreamt of being X, Y, and Z. Well, there's nothing stopping you from being X, Y, Z. Even if you are in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, you can change your career anytime you want to change it. And it's having that, letting people realize that they can change it. They don't have to stay with what they started off with when they were like 15, 16, and what they studied for at uni if they don't want to.
Yeah. I think there's still some of that talk around you get a job, you get a career, and you're sorted for life. But these days, people change their jobs all the time.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's like my dad was a farmer. His dad was a farmer. Farming was like through our generations, and it wasn't expected of me to be a farmer because I was a girl. It sounds really sexist, but that's the way it was back then. But my brother just wanted to join the army. He didn't want to be a farmer, and the uproar that caused was like, what? What do you mean you're not going to be a farmer? It's like, we're all farmers in this family. It's like, I don't want to be a farmer. I want to go in the army, so even like sort of like recently doing that sort of thing, but my parents got over it, and he went in the army, and he got his lorry driving HGV, and has been a lorry driver all his life once he came out of the army, and is happy doing that because he wasn't interested in farming. Out the two of us, I was more the farmer than he was, but nobody expected me to be the farmer because I was a girl. So back in the like early 70s, it was like that was the sort of thing, so. But it's thinking about what you want to do, and thankfully my brother did sort of stand up and say, well, actually, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go join the army, and did what he wanted to do, which was, which I'm really pleased that he did that. But, if you spent 20 years of your life miserable in a occupation that you don't enjoy, why spend the next 20 years of it, doing that? We're as the famous Jim Rohn says, we're not a tree, we can change. So we can change how we feel and what we want to do.
Someone said something to me years ago where they said, if you want to know what your life is going to be like in 5 years' time, have a look at someone who's been doing what you're doing for 5 years longer. And sometimes that's a scary prospect.
Absolutely. Yeah, and some people like to feel, and if you're happy, if your parents were whatever occupation and their grandparents were, and you're happy to go into that occupation and that's what you want to do, that's absolutely great, but it's looking at, if you're not happy, what can I do to like make my life, because we have got this one life as far as we know at the moment, live the life that you want to live, enjoy that life, instead of thinking, well, I should do this, because my family's done it, actually, think I want to do this because I want to be happy is a much better way, I personally think, to look at it than doing it because somebody else expects you to do it.
Yeah, definitely. So how do people go about healing their inner child wounds?
I do think what's called somatic reprogramming, and it's basically we connect. I do a lot of work when I work with my clients one-to-one, and do a lot of work helping them talk to their inner child and connect with their inner child and find out what their inner child needs from them, so they can reparent the inner child, so that inner child does feel loved, does feel worthy, does feel good enough, and does feel important. Because when that inner child feels those four, it's more likely to want to go ahead and do stuff rather than trying to hold you back. And like we said beforehand, your inner child is a bit like the puppet master, and we are like the puppet. So if we want to do things because in our mind we know we've got the skills and the knowledge, but our inner child is scared, they're going to pull the strings and kind of like pull us back and say, whoa, hang on a minute, no, we're not doing that, that's too scary. So it's really like looking at what your inner child wants and how they feel. And I do a lot of different like modalities to help you to release the trauma out of your body, so you can release anything that's stuck in there, that so you can date stamp whatever happened to you when you were 5 or 6 or whenever it was. You can date stamp that in the past, so your body that, okay, well, that happened when I was 6, but now I'm 30, 40, 50 or whatever age I am, so I'm okay to move forward and do whatever it is that I need to do.
So it's kind of like taking that memory or the emotional memory of whatever the event was and actually putting it in the filing cabinet for that year rather than leaving it open on the desk to affect us today.
Absolutely, yeah, that's the great analogy of it. Yeah, it's just that it happened when we were 6, but when these protector parts come up, like self-sabotage and procrastination, they see us as that little 6-year-old. So we need to like inform them that actually, you know, we are now an adult and we've got this and we can help our inner child, and we're happy to go forward and do whatever new experience it is, even if we do feel a bit nervous about it, because normally with a new experience everybody feels a bit of butterflies in their stomach because they've never done it before. But it's letting those parts know that actually I don't need to procrastinate, because I can actually have a go at doing this, and I'll either succeed or I'll learn from it. So it's, like I said before, our bodies is always giving us feedback and data and letting us know what's going on. So use that data, use that feedback to think, okay, where do I need to like start talking to my inner child and find out what my inner child needs from me to feel that she's loved and cared for and validated and heard.
You mentioned a lot of your clients are women in the sort of 30s, 40s, maybe 50s. Do you only work with women, or do you work with men as well? Or
no, I do work with men as well, but it just tends to be women that kind of I attract. But I have got male clients as well, because whether you're male or female, you know you can still have those inner child wounds, because everybody's got feelings and emotions, and they can feel them. Men tend to like be very good at burying their feelings and not necessarily wanting to like discuss them. But you know, I have had some amazing clients, male clients, that have really, you know, benefited from healing their inner child.
yeah, I can certainly relate to the burying emotions and things. I did it for years, I think. And I think a lot of that goes back to the things I used to hear in childhood, like boys don't cry, man up, and all those kind of things. And whatever you're facing, face it like a man, and all those stories. But we still have that emotional being or body, but it's almost like we're not allowed to bring that out onto the stage. So it just gets hidden, and then at those rather inconvenient moments, it jumps up and says, "Hello, it's me.
Yeah,
I've got
absolutely.
rid of you."
And it's the same with, you know, so many of my clients, like women clients, have come to me and said, well, I've got this anger issue, but you know, I shouldn't be angry, you know. And to me, emotions and feelings, there's no good or bad, they're just what they are. It's the thoughts that we attach to them make them feel good or bad, you know, because a lot of my clients grow up with good girls don't get angry, you know, because it's somehow wrong to show that you're angry or upset. But that is because the parents often have inner child wounds, and if their child is angry or upset, they feel like they're not good enough parents because their child is acting out as such. So we get instilled, and like you say, and it's because parents can't deal with children crying. They'll say, you know, man up, you know, boys don't cry, whatever it is, because it triggers things in our parents, because it's not nice to see a child cry, so they try and cover it up. Now, like me with my grandchildren, when they cry because they fell over and hurt themselves or something, I just let them cry it out, because when you let them cry it out, it's a natural way of dealing with whatever's happened and processing it. So that's why we cry. So it's like, let the child cry, let them process it, and then let's move on. And you see it in adults as well. Somebody's upset and crying. Somebody's, oh no, don't cry, you know, let's cheer you up. It's like, no, let the person cry, let them process it, because it's, once you process it there and then, you don't get stuck with the trauma that gets stuck in the body and then end up having to come and visit somebody like me to sort it out. So it's, you know, and it's often how the other person feels around them, why they'll try and stop them from crying, because it will trigger off something in them, and they don't, you know, because often if people see somebody else crying, it will trigger them off to want to cry, and they don't want to cry in front of other people as well. So it's all connected to everybody else having their inner child wounds as well, and what they're projecting out as well, which I could go on about for hours, but I won't.
So I'm guessing for those of us that are parents, and we don't want to give our children any of these inner child wounds, which I'm guessing is probably almost impossible. how can we prevent that from happening? I'm guessing the answer is healing our own wounds.
Yeah, and just to caveat everything, one thing with parenting guarantee, you're going to mess it up because no child comes with a manual, unfortunately. But the thing with children is like, it's also, dealing with your own inner child wounds so you can set the good example. So, a lot of parents won't cry in front of their children because they want to put that brave face on, but actually what you're teaching a child to do when you do that is they won't be able to express their emotions because they don't see you expressing yours. But also with children as well, as long as they feel seen and loved and heard, they're really, really resilient. And there'll be times where we'll do things, I'm sure every single parent is listening has blown their top to their child and thought, oh, I shouldn't have done that, it's just because I'm tired or I'm hungry or I'm hungry or whatever. But, apologize to them, say, like, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I shouldn't have said or done what I've just done. That was really wrong of me. So the child gets validated, they get seen and heard, their emotions are noticed there and then. And you can say, and I can understand why you're upset because of what I've just done. And it's okay to be upset about things. It's letting children be, again, letting them cry if they're hurt, if they're upset, rather than trying to stop them crying and trying to cheer them up. I know it's a natural thing because we don't want to see our children hurt, but actually letting them cry out and processing it is the best thing that we can do. But yeah, definitely when we heal our own inner child wounds, we're not then triggered. Like I said with me, if my grandchildren cry now, I'm not, oh, come here, let grandma give you a cuddle, let's sort it out. Don't cry. I just let them cry, and I give them a hug and say, okay, how are you doing now? Get them a plaster or whatever they need if their knees bleed or whatever it is, but let them cry. It's okay to let children cry, and it's also okay for children to see us cry, to see us upset, to see us angry, knowing that they're okay to feel any emotions, because as human beings we're supposed to express our emotions, but we don't. We tend to suppress them, and that's when our body ends up with diseases like autoimmune system, fibromyalgia, IBS, because when we suppress those emotions, they have to come out somewhere, and they'll often come out in aches and pains in our bodies or inflammation in our bodies, which doesn't do us any good at all either. So it's like, so if you're angry, express that anger, obviously not by punching somebody else in the nose or something,
in a healthy way.
Yeah, a healthy way. Grab a pillow or go out in the woods and scream that you're angry or whatever. Just let it out. And it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. And if you're feeling sad, sit with that sadness and just let it be. And so you can let it be and let it come out of you as well. Because if you think, oh, well, I feel sad, but I'm going to have to push it down, just smile and say, hi, I'm fine. Because that's not doing your body any good either.
Yeah, yes. It's certainly a bizarre, interesting experience crying in front of your children for the first time. Or it certainly has been for me. And it's only really been this year, because a lot of stuff I wasn't connected to in the past. And we watched the Green Mile with the kids a few weeks ago.
Oh my goodness.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I was gone. I didn't expect that to happen. But at the same time, I didn't fight it. And
Good.
when my father went to hospital earlier this year, and the doctors are saying, oh, this is probably going to be his last visit. And while you're sort of trying to process and understand what he's actually saying, as in, he's nearly about to die, which we knew anyway. But the way he said it, it kind of hit me, and ends up crying on my girlfriend's shoulders. And that just having that space as an adult to be able to cry and let that emotion flow through rather than trying to hold it back is a very, very different thing. So we're definitely not helping our kids by not letting them cry.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, letting them see that you cry, because you're a great role model if you can cry in front of them, because then they'll say, oh, it's okay for us to cry too, because dad's crying, especially with dads, because like you said before, men grow up hearing men don't cry, big boys don't cry, so they stuff their feelings down, which and this is why the suicide rate in men is so high, especially like in 40s and 50-year-olds, because they've suppressed their emotions all their life, and it's eventually erupted. And unfortunately, it's happened to be suicides because they're in so much pain, they don't know what else to do to escape it.
Yeah, definitely. And I've been in that place myself in the past. It's not a nice place to be. And also something I notice is that when men talk, a lot of the time it will be with other men and while they're doing activities and things. But a lot of the opportunities other previous generations have had, whether it's working men's clubs or things like that, are either closed or been forced to allow women in to create that gender equality. So those spaces aren't available anymore.
Yeah.
Which doesn't help.
No, absolutely not. So it's like you're doing a great job by showing your children it's okay to cry and to release those emotions, so they're not suppressing them down and bottling them up. They're just, when things happen, they'll cry and they'll do those things, so they don't end up with those traumas and those inner child wounds and things, because they're processing them at the time. And that's the best thing to do, because trauma isn't the event that happens, it's how we feel about the event and how we think about it afterwards. It's not the event. So if at the time something traumatic happens, like with it, like your dad, if your son can be there and cry and release that, he's not going to feel traumatized about the situation. He'll be sad about it, obviously losing his granddad, but it's not going to be traumatic for him. That's going to come out and sort of bite him in the backside in years to come.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that comes up for me in this conversation is, if you've got one parent who's actively trying to reduce the effects that their parenting has on the children, and the other one is completely oblivious to the effects, then that becomes very complicated, especially if they're separated, like myself and my kid's mother, because our parenting styles are 180 degrees apart.
And that comes back to, okay, how you feel about things and what you can control and what you can influence, and what you can't control, you need to think about letting go of, because you can control how your relationship is with your children and give them that foundation of being loved, heard and validated. So hopefully when they go to their other parent who maybe isn't doing that sort of thing, they can still have that self-worth in them, so they don't have that inner child when actually I do know I'm lovable because my dad said this, or my mum, or whoever the parent is. So it's that whatever you can do that's in your control to give them as much of that love and validations that you can possibly get. And kids are very quick to pick up and notice things. I mean, like me, for example, my mother was a narcissist, but my dad was lovely, and I would listen more to what my dad would say and how he thought about things than I would my mother, because she didn't have my best interests at heart, because she wasn't capable of loving me because of the fact she was a narcissist. But children are very good at picking up on that. So it's doing the best that you can with the situation that you've got, with the resources that you've got, and that's all that we all can do as well.
Yeah, definitely. Doesn't necessarily make it any easier at times.
Absolutely not. No, it's like a minefield, isn't it? But it's like, I mean, I look back and think, oh my goodness, so if I was a parent now and my children were younger, I would probably parent completely different. But we're often wiser in hindsight. But the one thing I did do, and I've had these conversations with my children, is they all felt loved and they all felt heard, because that's a big thing for me, because as a child where my mother was concerned, I didn't feel loved or heard or feel safe. So that was a main thing for me, with making sure that my children felt loved, heard and safe. Did I lose my temper at times? Did I do things wrong? Absolutely I did. But they all knew that I loved and cared for them. And I would say, look, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I've done this wrong. And, I would let them, have their feelings and their emotions. And I broke that, I am that cycle breaker. I broke that trauma of generations, because, looking at my children now and my grandchildren, they're completely different, had a completely different childhood to what I've had, because of all the stuff that I've learned along the way. So, and it is the thing, like I said before, the one thing you can guarantee with parenting, we're going to mess it up somewhere along the line, but, you can do the best that you can with the resources that you've got and the knowledge you've got at the time. But it's thinking about, okay, if you want to have it different, what can I do to change it? Where can I learn and seek out that help and seek out that knowledge? We've got the internet now, which is full of all sorts of wonderful knowledge and things. So yeah, but the main thing is children just want to be loved and seen and heard. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, the example I'll never forget was a couple of years ago, I had a birthday party, but it was like an open house. And my youngest daughter came with my little 4-year-old granddaughter. And then they went, but we hadn't cut the cake. And she woke up the next morning sobbing. And my daughter said, "What's the matter?" She went, "I didn't get a bit of grandma's cake." And it was because she's 4. That was her whole world at that time. Now, if my daughter had gone, "Oh, don't be silly, it's fine," my granddaughter could have acted really differently, but she didn't. She said, "Well, tell you what, we're seeing grandma later. I'll phone grandma up and get her to bring a piece over." So we made sure that she was seen and heard. And I as soon as I saw my granddaughter, I said, "I've got a piece of cake for you in the car. I remember to bring it over." And she was absolutely fine. And, the next year when we had a piece of cake, she didn't go to pieces because she thought she was going to miss out, because she knew it was okay, because we sorted that out, So it's understanding that when a child is really upset and you think, why are they upset over that? You've got to remember, whatever they're upset about at that particular time, that's their whole world. Even if they've lost their painting on the way home from school that they painted at school, it may just be a bit of paper with a drawing on, but to us, but to them, that is something really significant. So it's like actually listening to them and hearing what they've got to say and validating and saying, yeah, it's okay to be upset. I understand that you're upset. Let's see what we can do to sort it out. And that's the main thing you can do with your children, is just to love them and hear them and see them. And yeah, they'll do whatever they do, and things will happen, and you'll think, oh my goodness, did I create that in that child? But sometimes it's just their personality and the way they are. So yeah, it's also being kind to yourself and giving yourself a break, because nobody's perfect. Back to that being perfect, what we started talking about at the beginning, and we're all going to get things wrong along the way. But
yeah, we're all a combination of our parents and grandparents, traumas and influences and good stuff and everything that makes up part of us. So it does make me wonder how much effect us parents actually have sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, how much effect, how often do kids see their grandparents or their aunts and uncles who have got completely different ideas about things and say different things, so it's interesting. Like when I hear some people talking to my grandchildren, I'm thinking, oh, I wouldn't say that to them, but it's their opinion, and it's up to the child to kind of sort that out. And sometimes we can't have that control over them, but we can always love them and make them be seen and heard. And I will always come back to those 3 things. If they feel loved, seen and heard, then they can start to make their own decisions and make their own mind up as they get older, and decide what they feel is good for them, if they've got that solid foundation of feeling seen, loved and heard.
And how have your inner child wounds affected your relationships over the years?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, completely. My inner child wound of not feeling good enough and not feeling worthy attracted a couple of narcissists, because I was just wanted to help them out and make their life as wonderful as possible, and I was just the doormat, and I thought that was okay, because, you know, I was helping them feel better about themselves. So yeah, but when you've got those inner child wounds healed, you'll then think, okay, actually, no, I'm worth more than that. You know, I love me and I deserve to be that. And we look after ourselves better. Self-care becomes a priority. And actually, you don't put up with all the things that, you know, somebody who's disrespectful to you in a relationship would do, because you haven't got those inner child wounds of like, okay, well, they've given me a bit of love here in some way, shape or form, so that's okay, and I'll just hang on and wait for the next little bit of, you know, tidbit of whatever, you know, they're going to like dish out to me whenever they feel like it. So yeah, it hugely affected my relationships, not only romantic relationships, but my relationships with friends as well. You know, I was a huge people pleaser, because my inner child didn't want to be rejected. She wanted to feel loved. So whenever anybody asked me to do something, everybody around me was kind of like, well, go ask Brooke, she'll do it. And I would do everything I could for everybody, because I grew up thinking, I hate being so unhappy. When I grow up, I want everybody to be happy, and I'll do that even if it kills me. And it nearly did. I was completely exhausted. So it's that people pleasing part of like not wanting to be rejected, wanting to feel loved and feel worthy. So yeah, it has a huge effect when you've got unhealed wounds and the kind of people that you attract in your life. And now, you know, my inner child wounds are healed, and my husband is like a completely different relationship to all the ones I've had before then. You know, he respects me and he loves me, but I'm not needing of his love. And I've always said, you know, people are in my life now because I want them in my life, not because I need them. And that's a huge difference. But when you've got those inner child wounds, you need other people to validate you, to soothe those inner child wounds.
Excellent. How long have you been married now? I know it's quite a while.
Yeah, it's 5 years. We've been together 13 years, but we were married 5 years this year, just in September it was, yeah. So, yeah.
Wonderful. And how did you meet him?
I met him at a mutual friend's birthday party. And then a couple of weeks later, he had a birthday party and invited me along. And I did that thing that I used to do, like, oh, well, I'm single and you're single. Let's go have a drink. Not thinking any more of it, because he's actually 13 years younger than me. And then that was on the Friday. On the Saturday morning, I got a text saying, when do you want to meet up for a drink? And I thought, oh, okay. I thought, well, I've got loads of male friends. Another one won't have. Yeah, we'll go out for a drink on Tuesday. We went out for a drink on Tuesday, and the rest, they say, is history. We've been together ever since. So, and I can't even say, well, I didn't know how old he was, because I was actually at his 30th birthday party. So, so yeah. But so yeah, I've got myself a little toy boy, which is absolutely amazing. So yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, like so yeah, so yeah, and it does really affect your relationships with, you know, not only your romantic partners, like I said, but also your friendships, and also relationships with your relatives and stuff, like your children and your parents and extended family as well, because how you feel will affect how you react or respond to other people.
Yeah, and it also, well, more importantly, affects the relationship we have with that person looking back at us in the mirror.
Absolutely, yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like, how do we feel about ourselves? It's really, and it's back to like working with the inner child. Connect with your inner child and how you feel about you. And I always say now that I love myself, and anybody else who loves me is a bonus, because I don't need anybody else to validate me now, because I've done that work, and it's the difference as well, because when you've got unhealed wounds, you react to things, you get triggered to things, but once you've healed those, you can now respond to them, because you stay in that logical part of your brain and you respond to things rather than reacting to them. Somebody could say something, and like, you know, if somebody said something to me 10 years ago, I'd have kind of really reacted. But if they said the same thing to me now, I'd be like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I wonder what's going on in their world for them to say that. You know, so I get curious now, and I'm completely different, you know, response rather than reacting as well. So if you find yourself reacting a lot to things, get curious. Okay, why am I reacting like that? What's going on, you know, with my inner child for me to feel I need to react like that? Like if somebody says something really angry to you, do you blurt back anger things to them because they're angry at you? Whereas if somebody's angry and I can hear them being angry and they blurt something angry out at me, I think, okay, I wonder what's happening in their life for them to feel so angry. I don't think to myself, oh my goodness, they're attacking me, so I need to kind of attack them back as such.
Yeah,
but yeah, the relationship with ourselves is the main one that we need to focus on.
Yeah, because we take ourselves to every relationship we go to.
Absolutely, yeah. With ourselves 24/7. We need to be our biggest cheerleader, and we're often our worst critic. But actually, if we start to talk to ourselves like we would our best friend, our lives would change, in a big way, because we cheer ourselves on all the time. And like when we do something that we're not, you think, oh my goodness, that was stupid, and saying, oh, I can't believe you've done something really stupid. Think, oh, actually, that was a stupid thing I did. But actually, how would you say that to your friend if your friend said, oh, I've just done this really stupid thing? And oh, yeah, well, yeah, maybe it was a bit daft, but it's not that bad. And you kind of like help them to feel better about themselves, whereas we don't ourselves. We just keep going and going and going, and that self-doubt will appear again because we're setting those seeds. So yeah, really think about being your best cheerleader and your best friend rather than your worst critic.
Yeah, one of the things that helped me is when I look at doing something new or whatever, and I'm fearful of it, and I try and hold myself back. So like, hang on a minute, would I hold my children back like this, or would I encourage them to do it?
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
It's like every time I'd encourage them to do it. So it's like, why am I not encouraging myself? And then you kind of flip the script around and start to take action on whatever it is anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like I always think of the example of like when a child's learning to walk, it'll take one step, fall on its bum. And if you say, oh no, don't take another step because you might fall down and hurt yourself. But parents don't do that. Like, up you get, off you go again, keep going. And eventually they learn to walk, so.
Yeah, and then they encourage them to talk and everything, and then they spend the next 20 years trying to get them to sit down and shut up.
Absolutely, yeah. It is. It's comical when you look at it, but yeah, we're funny creatures as human beings, aren't we? So
we are indeed. We allegedly have the biggest brains and the most intelligence on the planet. We do some of the most dumbest stuff we've ever.
Absolutely, we do, yeah.
So you mentioned before we started recording that you've got a masterclass coming up.
Yeah, well, a boot camp. Yeah, we've got a boot camp coming up in January. It's called Heal Your Inner Child, Heal You, strangely enough, which is on the 22nd of January. And it will be, if anybody's interested, they can send me an email and I can give them the details, and I'll give you all the links to put in the show notes afterwards, so they can contact me on that. But it's a free 3-day boot camp where they'll learn about inner child wounds and how to start sort of like healing them. And we have such an amazing time doing them, and people, it's amazing what they can learn and achieve in those 3 days. So yeah, I love doing it's a great kickstart to the year as well, sort of having that in January to like start off 2024. Can't believe I'm saying that now, but it's like I'm not sure where 2023 went, but yeah.
Yeah, it was only January last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So is that an in-person event, or is that on Zoom?
No, it's Zoom. It's all virtual, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can join it, and it's all recorded. There's a private Facebook group, so if you happen to not be on the same time zone as me, you can watch the replays back and still interact with it and learn from it. So yeah, people from all over the world tend to join in. I've had people from America, Australia, New Zealand, Zimbabwe, Spain, Greece, Germany, all over the world. So yeah, wherever you live in the world, you can still join in.
And what's that costing?
It's free, absolutely free.
Excellent.
Just some of your time, a bit of time to watch the Facebook Live, and then do the little tasks that's set, which aren't huge tasks, but they are game-changing tasks. So So yeah, it's a great thing to do. So that's on the 22nd of January. But like I said, I'll put the information about that in the show notes for you, so people can get ready to join up for that.
Excellent. So aside from emailing you regarding this masterclass, if anyone wants to reach out and say hello or share some of, excuse me, I'm breaking these teeth in for a horse. Share some of their insights that they've picked up from this conversation with you, where can they find you?
They can email me at brooke@brookebounds.com. I also offer a complimentary 30-minute call. I'll put that link in they can just click on the calendar link and book a call with me, so they can happily, come and have a 30-minute chat with me, and it doesn't cost them anything, especially if it's something they think, oh my goodness, that sounds like me, and where do I go from here? Feel free to. And I've also got a free group that's for women, all about heal your inner child, heal you. So they're welcome as well to come and join that as well if they want to. Or friend request me on Facebook, which I'll also put the links to in the show notes.
Excellent. And if you should reach out to Brooke, please mention this podcast in doing so.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've also got a book. I just quickly, I'll don't know, you'll put it on YouTube. It's called You Can Have It, How to Break Through the Self-Sabotage Cycle, which is available on Amazon. It's a very good book with like 12 chapters, and it's got exercises at the end of each chapter, so you can work your way through them to sort of break through that self-sabotage cycle. And again, I'll put the link, give you the link so you can pop it in the show notes.
And I have a sneaking suspicion you wrote your book a lot faster than I wrote mine.
I wrote and published it in 90 days, yes.
Yeah, mine was about 4 months, so you beat me by about 30. So
Yeah, but that's good going, writing it in 4 months though, yeah. Yeah, and I basically did that not to like say, oh, I've done this in 90 days. It was like to get people to think, because I love to inspire people, get people to think, what could they achieve in 90 days? And so many people that started off said, oh, you're brave doing that. I could never do that. Then a few weeks in, because I was documenting it every day on Facebook, they're saying, oh my goodness, I've just started writing the first chapter of my book, or I've just decided I'm going to start a business. I'm going to, go for that promotion. And one person even said, I'm going to ask my friend, a friend of mine that I really fancy, out for a cup of coffee, because I thought that's the least I can do. If you can write a book and publish it in 90 days, I can ask somebody out for a cup of coffee. So as far as I was concerned, before the book was even published, it was a success, because people were thinking about, oh, what can I do? And actually taking the action and doing those things. So it was amazing. I loved it.
excellent. So final question for today. And it's one I don't prime anybody for, but I always end the podcast with the same question. And that is, as this pod is called Relationship Revolutions, in your opinion, what is one thing that will bring a revolution to the world of dating and relationships?
Just be yourself. Don't try and be something that you expect the other person to be. Just be you, and then you'll find the person that's actually going to be the person that should be in your life. Because if you pretend to be what you think they want you to see, eventually you comes out, and that's the relationship can go a bit peaked on then. So yeah, just be you and enjoy it. Enjoy the relationship. I can remember when I got with my husband, a few of my friends were like, oh my goodness, what about if he wants to get married? What about if he wants to have children? I'm like, well, I've done that. I've already got 4 children. I think I've done my bit for society. So if he wants to get married and have children, he'll have to go find somebody else. I'm just going to enjoy, where we are right now and see what happens. Never say never, because I end up getting married to him. But I haven't had any more children, though, thankfully. But yeah, so it's thinking about, not always thinking about, okay, what is actually be present and enjoy being with that person there and then, because you're going to get so much out of that relationship if you're just you and you're present.
Yeah, the only time really is right here and right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, because tomorrow's never promised, so just enjoy what you've got today right now.
So you're right, and yesterday's history.
Absolutely.
Brooke, it's been an honor and a pleasure having you on and chatting with you today.
Yeah,
And
thank you very much
we'll
for
be
having
catching
me.
up very, very soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening. And if you haven't already, please leave me a review on your preferred podcast platform. Click the like button and also subscribe so that you get the new episode notifications. I'm curious, what did you take away from this episode? Please share your takeaways with me. Send me an email to relationship-revolutions@theloveengineer.rocks.